Hey Eagle fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Before we jump into some really exciting Eagle news here on the channel, make sure you guys go down below and use the hashtag Eagles to go ahead and get a question ready to rock in the comment section, which I'll probably go ahead and use for our mailbag video we're going to film tomorrow. So again, if you want to get your question answered on tomorrow's show, go ahead and use the hashtag Eagles down below to jump in on our mailbag. Let's jump into the latest Eagles news and rumors, starting with the breaking news as of late last night. The Eagles have a new starting middle linebacker, and this kind of came out of nowhere as they have signed former Vikings linebacker Eric Wilson to a one-year deal. So you get Anthony Harris, the former Viking, now you get Eric Wilson, the former Viking, and suddenly the Eagles defense is looking at least a little bit better than where it has been over the past couple of years, especially back in 2020. So details on this is the deal's worth up to $3.25 million with incentives, so not that expensive, and the reports that are coming out are saying he's expected to be the starting middle linebacker of the Philadelphia Eagles in 2021, which honestly, they need it, and they need a lot of help at linebacker, and we thought they'd go in the draft, and now it looks like they're going to go ahead and make the splash via free agency. So the Eagles Wire has a good write-up on the addition of Wilson. We'll show it on the screen right now. It says, quote, Wilson solves the Eagles' problems at linebacker against the pass, and in 2020, his 8 passes defended, tied for 31 linebackers, and 3 interceptions, tied for first. As good as he is as a pass defender, Wilson struggles against the run at times, despite being among the league leaders in tackles. So I like the signing. I think this is great. The question then becomes, so does this mean no Parsons at 12? We talked a lot about here on the channel how Micah Parsons at number 12, the linebacker from Penn State, has been a very popular draft mock person in terms of who could go for Philadelphia as early on in the first round. I think Parsons or a cornerback or potentially Jalen Waddle are the 3 options right now for Philadelphia, but I think this takes Micah Parsons off of the board. Now, Wilson has played on the outside. He's not always been a middle linebacker. He was the outside linebacker in Minnesota, so I guess technically you could go ahead and draft Parsons and put him at middle linebacker and Wilson as the outside linebacker, but I would argue this probably means Philadelphia is not going to go ahead and get a linebacker at 12, meaning cornerback or potentially wide receiver become the real picks here in the first round. This, again, is a good move. Again, we talk about how Eric Wilson, at least from the Eagle Wire quote, is a really good pass defender. 3 interceptions, were tied for first among linebackers last year. But he goes into a linebacking core that needed an upgrade. I mean, Philadelphia has not put a lot of stock in the linebacking core over the past couple of seasons. We've talked about how they've not had a Pro Bowl linebacker since Jeremiah Trotter in 2005. And Wilson is a guy who was never a full-time starter throughout his entire career until last year at the age of 27. And he played really well, had over 100 tackles. And I think this is a move that Eagle fans can feel very confident about and feel very excited about, kind of like how the Anthony Harris one was, right? A guy who was good last year, didn't get a big contract, not very active in free agency, and then now comes to Philadelphia on a 1-year deal in order to have a chance to prove himself. And if he proves himself worthy, he'll get a long-term deal and hopefully be the future at linebacker as well as the present here in 2021. But again, overall, an absolutely fantastic move by Philadelphia. I feel way better than I did by the linebacking core yesterday than I do today because they at least have a legit starter at middle linebacker who hopefully can help anchor this defense and make them a lot better than they have been over the past couple of seasons. What do you guys think? Grade the signing of Eric Wilson here. A, B, C, D, or F on your grade. Let me know down below. I mean, honestly, I feel like it's an A+. They have about $6 million in free cap space. They use half of that with the $3.25 million to go ahead and sign Wilson. And again, if he plays as he did last year, he's easily the best linebacker on the Eagles depth chart right now. You had a cornerback at number 12, and this defense legitimately, a matter of 3 moves, Anthony Harris, Eric Wilson, and potentially the corner have gotten, I mean, leagues better than where they were in 2020, and hopefully even way better than they were all the way back in 2021. So I would say A-, A+ here on my grade, but I want to see what you guys think down below. So give me your grade on the Wilson signing, A, B, C, D, or F. I'll see what you guys think in the comments section. All right, before we go ahead and move on, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel because I just did a mock draft yesterday. You probably missed my mock draft. I had a corner go off the board at number 12, and I got a lot of wide receivers. I got someone DM me on Twitter saying it was the best mock draft he's seen from any Eagle person the entire year, so I feel pretty good about that, and I think you guys should go ahead and check that out here on the channel. And while you guys are checking that out, look at all of our other videos. Make sure you guys are subscribed to Philadelphia Eagles now, as we got plenty more, including a mailbag coming up in the next couple of days. Let's move on to some other signings here. This is interesting. So Jordan Howard is coming back again to Philadelphia. So you remember the former running back who was a starter at one point a couple of years ago and then was re-signed last year, although he didn't really do much. He had 7 carries for 27 yards in 2020. He's been re-signed again to compete for the backup running back spot, the 3rd-string running back spot. Not really sure, but Howard signs a 1-year, very cheap veteran minimum deal to go ahead and come back to Philadelphia. I would expect him to compete for the third running back spot right now. They went ahead and re-signed Boston Scott a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, Sanders 1, Scott 2, and then Howard there at 3. This works well for Philadelphia from a running back build standpoint because, again, Scott and Sanders are slashers and dashers, whereas Howard is kind of the physical runner. We've seen him, at least two years ago, be really good running downhill and in short yardage situations. I expect him to make the roster. However, I would not rule out a later round draft pick at adding one more running back like a Chuba Hubbard in the 4th or 5th round out of Oklahoma State. But the addition of Howard is a good signing by Philadelphia because, again, it is just so darn cheap. The other interesting move today is that Nate Sudfeld is no longer an Eagle. He was a free agent this offseason. The Eagles have not re-signed him, and Sudfeld went ahead and signed a one-year deal with the San Francisco 49ers worth almost $1 million when it is all said and done. Interesting move for San Francisco, but the former Washington football player, I guess, and then former Eagle since 2017 is no longer with Philadelphia. You remember Sudfeld was, I think, one of the better backups in the league and just didn't get a good shake at it because he was never really fully a backup, at least last year, because they drafted Jalen Hurts. So, right for him to go ahead and, find a new team. Best of luck with the 49ers, but clearly it's going to go ahead and be Hurts and Flacco as your 1-2 punch in Philadelphia. Does this mean the Eagles are done making moves? I think so. It's a question I got late last night on Twitter, at @RealThomasMott. People said, are the Eagles done making moves? I think so. I don't think of any other one that would make sense. There aren't a lot of great players out there unless you want to sign a veteran corner like a Richard Sherman, but the age and money is probably a little bit too much. I would expect Philadelphia to be done making moves after this. And honestly, for an offseason where they were over $40 million in cap space and they got all the way underneath it and made very minimal cuts and were able to sign 2 really good defensive players, and Anthony Harris and Eric Wilson, honestly, I think the offseason has been a pretty good success for Philadelphia so far. I expect them to be done, but much like the Wilson move, would be pleasantly surprised if they were able to go ahead and find somebody else to sign. Before we go ahead and keep going, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised with our deals right now on some official Philadelphia Eagles hats at chatsports.com/Eagles hat. The link will be down below in the description box. And right now, most of them are up to, 70% off I'm seeing right now as I scroll through them. As spring is in full swing and summer just around the corner, you're going to take the beach trips, you're going to be out and about hiking. Why not go ahead and grab an Eagles hat to keep the sun on your face and rep Philadelphia. Again, great styles, including, I think they got a great sale on the Eagles Super Bowl hats right now. Some of them as low as $9.99. Go ahead and check out the link down below in the description box. Chatsports.com/Eagles hat is the place to go. Plenty of other options here in terms of potentially picking up some headgear for your summer attire. Let's jump into some more Eagle news and rumors here, and that is the eyeing of wide receivers, not named first-round wide receivers, not named Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, or Devonta Smith, as new reports are coming out of Philadelphia saying the Eagles have been, quote, talking a lot with LSU wide receiver Terrace Marshall, as Marshall, of course, is projected to be a late first, early second-round draft pick from a wide receiver standpoint. And as you look beyond the Jamar Chases and Devonta Smiths of this draft, there are some pretty good options in case Philadelphia doesn't get a wide receiver at number 12, which we kind of expect them not to unless they get Jalen Waddle out of Alabama. So quick history lesson on Marshall here. He played 7 games at LSU in 2020 before opting out, partially due to COVID, partially due to the fact that LSU was really bad. He obviously did not want to go ahead and get hurt. He's big, he's 6'3", an explosive playmaker, and he'll be there in round 2. A very legit option for Philadelphia in the second round here. I love the size, I love the speed, and I love the ability that he has. In 7 games at LSU in 2020, he had 48 catches for 731 yards and 10 touchdowns. He averaged 15.2 yards per catch. You got to remember, that was not a very good quarterback. I mean, they worked through a bunch of them, but it was not a very good quarterback year. It wasn't like Joe Burrow was throwing him passes. At LSU, So Marshall becomes a legit option in the second round, and I love the idea of potentially adding him. That leads us into the Rashad Bateman projected pick that Tom McShay talked about in his mock draft a couple of days ago. We talked about it here on the channel. Bateman is that other kind of second-tier wide receiver to go along with Marshall that becomes an option for Philadelphia early on in the second round. He only played in 5 games last year, but still had very similar numbers, 36 catches for 472 yards and 2 touchdowns. Again, you kind of project that out a little bit. Marshall had a better overall season, but still both of which are real options for Philadelphia. Now, neither of these guys are number 12 overall draft picks. The only wide receiver you would take there is Waddle, or if Smith or Chase were to fall. But early on in the second round, with Philadelphia having the ammo to move up and make multiple second-round draft picks if they traded up from 3rd and 4th round, you could look at Philadelphia hopefully getting 2 wide receivers. And I've said this before. I did it in my mock draft last week. The Eagles need 2 wide receivers in this draft. You can't just go out there and get one and hope that he turns out to be good and Rager turns out to be good and I guess Hightower or Watkins turns out to be good. No, you got 11 draft picks. Get 2. Get one in the second round Unless Waddle falls to you at 12, which I guess is a possibility, but get one in the first or second round, get another in the third, fourth, or fifth. That way you get 2 options in terms of chances to go ahead and become great. Philadelphia has a bunch of young wide receivers. They need to get as many as they can, pool together, throw them into training camp, and let the best man win. I mean, straight, meritocracy in terms of the Eagle wide receiver depth chart. Just because Fulgham had a couple of good games last year, you can't guarantee he's going to be good. Just because Reagor's expected to be better in year 2 doesn't guarantee anything. And so you need to go ahead and make sure you have options. That way Jalen Hurts is not stuck with the similar cast and crew that Carson Wentz had during his final 2 seasons, where you kind of went, this is the best that you could put around him. Philadelphia made no splashes in the offseason from a wide receiver standpoint in free agency. Understandably so, because they were very expensive, but still, you got to go ahead and add 2 minimum in this draft. And my mock draft the other day had them taking 3, and the addition of Marshall or even Rashad Bateman or like a Rondale Moore would be absolutely fantastic to go ahead and hopefully create some excitement on the outside to help out a young quarterback in Jalen Hurts. You mentioned, we talk about the wide receiver depth chart. You've seen it up on your screen. You know it's not good. The hope is that Greg Ward is not going to be your number 1 receiver next year. He's going to be a good role piece, but he can't keep being the leader in catches and receiving yards. You got to get somebody to hopefully kickstart the Eagle receiver core, and I think Bateman, Marshall, or somebody else could make a lot of sense here in this year's draft. Who would you rather have? Would you rather have Terrace Marshall or Rashad Bateman? Type TM down below, not for Thomas Mott, for Terrace Marshall, and the great initials there, or RB down below for Rashad Bateman. Either one works, honestly, for me, but I'm curious what you guys think. Let me know down below in the comments section. Ultimate offer today here on this edition of Philadelphia Eagles Now. Again, mailbag video coming up probably tomorrow is when I'll film it, so get your questions in right now using the hashtag Eagles. That way you can hopefully be featured in tomorrow's episode. We're going to go ahead and answer as many as we possibly can. Make sure you're subscribed to be able to do that as well. Ultimate offer today here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. I am your host, Thomas Mott. We go ahead and sign off for the rest of your day.